Good afternoon, good morning. My name is Heng Sure. Today is Friday the 15th of August here in Berkeley, California. If you are listening to this talk in Chinese, it is probably the 16th of August, a Saturday noon, Saturday morning. Hope you're all well. 希望各位就好过光阴啊。我叫亨石啊，今天是8月16啊。So I want to point those of you who would like to listen to this lecture in Chinese. I would like to direct you. Let's see here. Here we go. There we go. Direct you to our. If you look at your software. 就说如果你们各位想听一种流利的中文的翻译，这个有义工和发心帮忙，他的声音就在你的控制板软件的控制板的右下角 ，interpretation 你们看到了没有？那里就可以Chinese 就可以了。And if you would like a fluent and current Vietnamese language translation, go to the chat box, the meeting chat, and click on the Vietnamese Zoom link, and that will take you to the translation. So we got you covered. Spanish speakers still coming. Si vous parlez le français, dommage, ce n'est pas possible pour Joshua donner une traduction assez fluide, ce n'est pas possible. C'est bien dommage, c'est pas? So, sorry about that. French speakers will have to. We're working on it. Indeed. So, hey, boy, do we have an interesting, my goodness, earthquake in, where was the earthquake? So, we have a fascinating lecture tonight for you. Master Empty Cloud, our hero, is just been saved from a gruesome death. Yet again, his life was spared by a kind-hearted elder Chinese gentleman whose name is not recorded. But if it were not for him, our teacher's story would have ended there in outside Penang. Oh my, what a story. We heard that last week. Let's get started tonight with our Dharma request. And Elaine is going to request Dharma. Let me ring the bell 3 times, and we can make 3 half bows, and then Elaine will request Dharma. Here we go. Yi Wen Xin, Zai Wen Xin, San Wen Xin. Okay, Elaine, if you'd like to request Dharma, please go ahead and do it now.
恭请大德圣听，为此法会集一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐。殊真无生。Lotus Sangha with great virtue, our compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly will lie non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo Sadanto Suchedoye Alahari Samya Samputoshe.
Namo Sadanto Sujedoye Alahadi Samyao Samputo.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Alrighty. Elaine, thank you for the Dharma request. Appreciate that. We're going to move right along here to acknowledge the Ohlone people, Chocechno Ohlone people, practiced spiritual connections to the earth and to all creation here on their ancestral land. This is in the East Bay of the San Francisco Bay. For tens of thousands of years, today we acknowledge them as traditional custodians and original storytellers of these lands. We offer our respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations peoples whose sovereignty was never ceded. 我们恭敬地承认 Chocechno Ohlone people 是我们寺院这里 Berkeley 所在地的传统叙事者和守护人。我们向过去、现在和未来的长者们致敬，并且向所有从来没有放弃主权的第一民族的原住民致敬。Here we go. Bell sound wide resounds throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread all throughout the triple world. The wondrous sounds that everywhere fill the Dharma realm with peace. May those who hear it gain the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. 众生传3000劫内，佛法扬万亿国中，共训其法界和平，利益报贪我厚德。There we go. That's our protocol to get things moving, to get things started. And hello, good evening to folks in Fremont, not in California, in Fremont, and Ukiah, and Australia, the Gold Coast, and Vancouver, and Ukiah, Malaysia, and Sydney, and Cascade, Colorado, and Campbell, California. All the storytellers have gathered. Hong Kong, and Sunnyvale, and Saratoga, and Santa Clara. Let's see here. Norway. Really? In Norway? No kidding. My goodness. Heilongjiang, Montreal. Singapore, Los Altos, Jakarta. Where else? Oh my goodness. Let's see. Kansas, New York City, Singapore, Bay Area, San Jose, San Francisco, St. Petersburg, Taipei, Mesa, Arizona, Calgary, Oklahoma. Norway. Definitely in Norway. Wow. 哇，那个地方我没去过。Okay, Virginia, and let's see here, that must be Australia. And then Beijing, Harbin, Liaoning, Tianjin, Xi'an, Beijing, Suzhou, Lanhai, 那里宝鸡，吉林，淮南市，黑龙江，北京。唐山，河北唐山，北京包头，内蒙古哈尔滨，浙江珠海，朝阳，let's see，首级是什么地方？哦，那在山东，河南。Okay, welcome everyone. Glad you're here. Very much appreciate the kind-hearted folks who are translating for me into Mandarin and Vietnamese. makes things easier for me, and it makes the Dharma go far. Now, people remember this incredible story last week. Master Empty Cloud nearly died, came very close. His life was saved, first of all, by his strong constitution. He was poisoned, but the poison didn't kill him, which is rare. And then through the help of a kind-hearted Chinese gentleman who was trying to save a monk's life, he managed to buy his way out of this hospital prison that was going to be his death and get him on board ship heading for Penang. So finally that happened. And Shifu, because of the demands of the medium, there's only so many words you can put onto the page. He compressed all that whole experience into one paragraph. Saved by a native of Fujian. The doctor, who was this strange demonic creature, was foiled in his wish to turn Master Empty Cloud into a living organ donor. Ooh, no thanks. And he was saved. So back on the ship, heading over to Penang, and that's where we left Master Empty Cloud last week. So let's pick up. And as I mentioned, luckily we have the Nianpu. The Nianpu is his own autobiography. And, well, autobiographies are your own autobiography. That's what it means. And because he's telling the story, we can fill in the details. He is not limited by the demands of space. So here. He made it to Penang, and everyone said, "Where were you? What happened?" And he said, 20 days ago, he said, "It's my fault." He didn't blame anyone else. That's typical selflessness. Then he told the story in detail. "I recounted the entire ordeal," he said. Everybody, including Miao Lian Zhanglao, the elder monk Miao Lian, who was highly respected, considered to be a special monk, heard this, and all the monks heard. They were shocked and so happy that he survived. And then they went to Jilesi in Penang. Jilesi, where we have been. Master Hua took us there. Shifu took us there in Penang. The Jilesi has a tall, ancient stupa, many stories, like 13-story stupa. It's the landmark of pretty much of Penang. The elder said, "You should take some medicine." And I said Master Empty Cloud, "Now that I'm back, my false thoughts are done. If I can just rest for a few days, I'll be fine," he said. Typical. He's got some stiff bones. Oh my goodness. So, delivered. Now, prior to this, just before this, he was crying because he had made it back, and yet he looked like he just stepped out of his grave. And so the monk paid him no attention. And this is twice. This happened in Yunnan when he had been dragged behind a boat, and the monk there refused him entrance. Here, he was ignored, as he was still, his body was alive, but not by much. His health was. Then Jue Kong Fasher came along and recognized him and said, oh. He said, "We've got that you came to Malaysia. How wonderful." And then they knew that he had been missing for 20 days. Now he sees him more dead than alive. He says, "How did you wind up like this?" So he told the story. And so now the story has been told. Everyone's like shaking their heads. So he's going to apply what his own self-healing methods, which is basically Chanding. We know that that's how he got enlightened, after falling in the river before the Chan session, and then getting beaten by the staff because he refused to take a administrative role in the Chan session. So in these last few years, this monk has been through some incredible brutality, and his body is, every time he's been able to recover through the use of Chan. But you don't want to have these things happen in the first place, right? So, boy, people who say being a patriarch, being an 8-stage bodhisattva must be a piece of cake. Not if we take this story into account. Oh my, karma is true. Never off by a bit. So, he sat long, crossed his legs, let his body heal. His soul, his spirit is not sick in the least, but his body has to endure the effects of prior causes, right? So Master Miaolian sees him sitting, Master Jiekong perhaps, and he says, now here in Southeast Asia, he said it's really hot. It's not like China. If you sit long, you might hurt yourself, he says. Master Empty Cloud says, thank you for your advice. I'm going to sit. I couldn't take notice. Look at that. So here's a prejudice against long sitting. Very interesting. This is a 莫名其妙的规矩. This is what you call a strange rule, a nonsense rule. The thinking, even for a Buddhist monk, is where it's hot, you shouldn't sit long because you'll overheat and hurt yourself. Master Empty Cloud is a meditator. He's a Chan master. He says, thank you. Pay no attention. Okay. So, Master, I believe it is Chuekong. Let's see. Okay, it is Miaolian Fasher. Even Miaolian says such a thing. So, Miaolian tries again. He says, now we have you here in Penang. You've come to Malaysia. You've been mistreated. Let us make it up. Lecture on the Fa Hua Jing, please. We want to hear the Dharma, and you can tie up affinities with the people here. They get the benefit of your being here if you'll lecture on a sutra. So, in his Hunan accent, Master Empty Cloud explained the Fa Hua Jing. And oh, if only we could read it, if only we could hear it, but it is not to be. He says, I have to go back to China, says Master Miaolian, and after you're finished with the Fa Hua Jing, your body should be better. You go back to Yunnan, to the temple where you were building the refuge, sanctuary for traveling monks, because the Dharma in Yunnan had already decayed, had already become decadent, corrupt. So you rebuilt the place, go back there with offerings and establish it. Then come to find me in Gushan. Gushan is the place where historically the best precepts were transmitted. If you got ordained at Drum Mountain, that was considered the best place of all. So he says, I've got something I want to talk to you about there. So I'll see you again in China. Master Miaolian is off. So he sent him to the boat, and he began to lecture. Several hundred people took refuge after they heard the sutra. So that's good. Master Miaolian is a true Shanzhishi, a good and wise advisor who's got a very broad view, and his wish is to increase the wisdom of the Dharma in Malaysia. So at the port of Malacca, the lay protectors invited me to Qingyun Ting to lecture on the Medicine Sutra. Now, last week, people who are listening every week know that we already covered this a little bit, but I wanted to retell this piece because Qingyun Ting has an amazing Guanyin Bodhisattva image. There's a story. It's called Bu Kun Xu Guanyin. And as a result of the presence of this image, there's a special, I'll show everybody here. Cheng Hun Teng is a Hokkien way of saying Qingyun Ting in Malacca. Here it is. I did 3 steps, 1 bow all around these halls, a long, wide, old-fashioned temple. This is somebody's research on what's called Guanyin belief in Qingyun Ting. The story of how Qingyun Ting came to be the place where you worship Guanyin happened with this amazing Guanyin image called Bukan Chu Guanyin, the Guanyin Bodhisattva that didn't want to leave. It was this image that's in Qingyun Ting. Let's see here. Here we go. There it is. It's, which one? Oops, there we go. This is Malacca. Malacca is right on the coast, and it's a mysterious temple. Here we are. This is it. Let's see here. This is the Bukan Chu Guanyin, the one in the back. It washed up on the shore and wouldn't leave. Someone tried to take it back to where it came from, which I believe was Japan. I don't know the whole story. But the ship that the image was on sank, and the image floated right back to the shore. And they tried twice to return this Guanyin image away from the coast where it landed in Malaysia, but the image refused, and it wanted to go to Qingyun Ting, Green Cloud Pavilion, and that's where it stayed. So there was a miracle surrounding this Guanyin image, and people experienced all kinds of miraculous healing and wonderful stories around this Guanyin Pusa image. So this was called Bukan Chu Guanyin, the Guanyin image that refused to go, refused to leave. Now, when we arrived, we were introduced to Qingyun Ting, as I mentioned last week, by the Jin Ming Jin Qing Fa Shi. And here we go, here it is. And Jin Ming and Jin Xing, the two Ming, the two Jin brothers. Here it is. You can see some of the incredible old images from Qingyun Ting. Apparently, you can, if you're a Taoist, if you're a Buddhist, if you're a Confucian, you're all welcome. All believers are welcome in this ancient monastery. And the one of the features of Qingyun Ting was the Weino Shi there was blind. The monk who led the ceremonies was blind, but he had a style of the Da Bei Chan, which everyone loved the best. And Shifu, Master Xuanhua, instructed us to learn the method of the Da Bei Chan, the Great Compassion Repentance, from this blind Weino. 观世音菩萨，开眼含笑，即说如来大悲陀罗尼耶. Like that. All of the different tunes from the Great Compassion Repentance came from this particular Weno. And it was famous all over Southeast Asia. And so our style of the Dabe Chan was copied from Qingyun Ting, because Master Jinming had the Weno teach us how to do it. Quite wonderful. Anyway, so Master Empty Cloud visited Qingyun Ting, and on his way back to where? On his way back to Kuala Lumpur. Okay. I traveled to Kuala Lumpur, where layman Ye Fuyo and Huang Yunfan invited me to Lingshan Si to lecture on the Leng Che Jing. So he did that. 10,000 people took refuge altogether. Okay. Now, at this point, we go to our new chapter in the picture biography. We've now caught up with the brief. Master went to Jila Si, lectured on the Lotus Flower Sutra. Okay, and then Shifu, in the poem, described the evil doctor who tried to cut Master Empty Cloud open alive. 一一存心颇狠毒，人本未死欲剖腹，其一大德佛呵护，虽服毒剂有若无. The doctor, a barbarian, harbored strong hatred in his heart, wanting to cut open the stomach of living patients. But the Buddha protects greatly virtuous monks, and even though the master swallowed poison, it did him no harm. Kids, don't try this at home. Here we go. 67 years old, in the Guangxu year 32, 1906. He's 回国挽救四难，颠权体生来电云，政府提四产，既产约回国共图挽救。丙午，67岁春，回国传经台，参观灵泉寺，至日参观各地佛寺，时中日安交恶，两国僧人已不许自由活动，3月回国，抵户上。The master received a telegram from Yunnan Province Sangha Association, which said the government was seizing monastery property. Dharma Master Ji Chan urged the master to return to China, where the problem could be collectively resolved. In the spring of 1906, in the master's 67th year, he left for China. When the ship stopped at Taiwan, he visited Lingquan Si, and later in Japan, he visited various Buddhist temples. At that time, communications between China and Japan were worsening. Members of the Sangha in both countries were forbidden freedom of movement. In the 3rd lunar month, the master returned to his country, arriving at Shanghai. Okay, so here's an ocean-going vessel, flagging it down, or they're saying goodbye, maybe, because he's on board and he's leaving. So here's the story. Dian Chenti Seng Lai Dian Yun, everybody from Yunnan province said the government is confiscating monastery property. So, boy oh boy, Yunnan at the time was the Wild West. Prior to this, Master Empty Cloud discovered that the Sangha had become, the word is nepotized, nepotism. So monasteries were passed on inside of families instead of the 10 direction Sangha, the way the Buddha set it up. So he wanted to set things right, got the land, rebuilt the place, changed the feng shui, got donors, and recruited monks, and everything is looking good. But now, out of nowhere, the government comes along to step in and steal the property from the Sangha. And notice, 寂禅法师就说回国共图挽救. Master Jichan, who was also known as the Eight-Fingered Ascetic, he said, go back to Beijing and save we can't do it here. You need to get an order from above at the federal level. That's the way to stop the government from stealing. Go over their heads and get Beijing involved. So wise monk, good method. So Master Empty Cloud says, okay, I have to leave the southwest and go to the northeast. So that's his goal. And the way to do it is on board ship instead of by land. So he sets out. He's 67 years old, and he gets on board ship. You can see the photo, the image here. And on the way, where does he stop? He goes to Taiwan. Master Empty Cloud visited Taiwan. How about that? Yes, he did. Where did he go? He went to Lingquan Si, right here, near Keelung. Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit here. Here is Keelung. Here is Lingquan Si. So he didn't go far. He didn't travel Taiwan, but Keelung is a port. So the ship came into port, probably to refuel, and he found one of the closest monasteries to stay. So here it is, Keelung Si. Right? There we are. Yeah. Okay, so our teacher traveled to Taiwan. Now, he also traveled on his way back. So clearly, let's take a look here. His goal is to get to the central government in Beijing, but he's starting here. He's starting in Malaysia. He's starting here. So the ship either passed, it had to go around, or how does it get through? And on its way up, he has to go by Taiwan. So they stopped in Taiwan to refuel. Then he went to Japan on his way back to Shanghai, and he landed in Shanghai. So you could see the route by sea was like that. Okay, and they say, who is Ji Chan Fa Shi? Interesting. Ji Chan Fa Shi is known as the Eight-Fingered Ascetic, 八支头陀 Fa Shi. That was his name because, as a young monk, he went to Wang Si and burned off not one but 2 fingers. There he is. He is a highly respected monk who began as an uneducated, illiterate monk, but who was known at the end of his life as the 20th century Sangha's most beloved poet monk. So his time as a Sanghan was so, he used his time so well that he became literate. He became a poet. So let's see here. There he is. You see his pictures, his 8 fingers. Chan Shi Xin Shang, Ba Zhi Tu Tu. There he is. So he's quite a character, and it's so interesting that he is the one who heard about Master Empty Cloud's wish to return, to straighten things out, to stop the government from stealing property, from confiscating monastic property. And, you know, if that happened widely, the Sangha would be find itself having to struggle with the government, which you don't want to be in that position. So he said, Master Doqing, he said, you have to go to Beijing to settle this on a national level, please. So he set out, went to Lingquan Si, went to Japan, where he had a chance to travel around and look at temples. And he says that the story says that Sangha members in both China and Japan were under inspection. They were being surveilled. Geng Jin Er Seng Lai Hua. Japanese monks were forbidden from coming to China. So I went to China I went back to the capital with the intent to argue on behalf of both the Sangha of China and Japan. So what we're seeing at this point is Master Empty Cloud's influence. He, because of his pilgrimage, because of his enlightenment, because of his willingness to, the fact that after his enlightenment, he sat at Zhongnanshan for days without moving, that reputation has now traveled all over China. And he's someone, the Chinese Buddhist Association at this point doesn't exist yet. It hasn't been created. But it's because of his influence, his reputation as the true cultivator of the Chan school. So he's the one who can argue on behalf of the entire Sangha now, not only of China, but also Japan as well. Okay. So he says, 3月回国第一义与佛教会代表季禅师等同进京请愿，就抵经住贤良寺、圣路寺法案、龙泉寺道信、观音寺觉光住师亲自招待，素前往善事，请与我太附近说戒法，以及更是虽认识各王公大臣旧友，多来亲事，此话上层诸事，得各护法帮助甚多，诸事顺利，亲上奉上谕。Okay, he's really modest. Here is where we pick up our story again. We didn't get Shifu's verse here. 妙老回国主长经法华药师即禅明，吉隆灵山强冷且，前后皈依万余名. It's a great poem. The Venerable Miao Lian returned to China and urged him to lecture on sutras. He expounded in succession the Dharma Flower and Medicine Master Sutras. That, it doesn't say how long it took. That probably took months. In Kuala Lumpur at Lingshan Temple, he explained the Lankavatara. Together, more than 10,000 people took refuge at the Master. That's a lot of disciples. Okay. All right. Now he sets out on his mission to petition the central government to leave the Sangha alone. Okay? So here's basically the same thing we read in the Nyenpu. Here we go. Yi Tong Jin Jing Qingyun, arriving in the capital to join a group to petition the government. 与佛教会代表及禅师等同进京请愿，抵京住贤良寺、僧路司法庵、龙泉寺道兴、观音寺觉光主事等，亲自招待，备极游龙，彼此共商，如何进行挽救策略。此时若非公等佛教不知，其于胡敌。Yeah, that's what it says. The master, Dharma Master Ji-chan, the eight-fingered ascetic, and the other representatives of the Buddhist Association entered the capital to present their petition to the government. Upon arriving, they stayed at Shenliang Monastery. The official head of Sangha affairs, Dharma Master Fa An, Dharma Master Dao Xing of Longquan Monastery, along with Jue Guang of Guanyin Temple, among others, personally welcomed the Master, giving him abundant provisions. The masters discussed among themselves how to rectify the situation and made plans for restoration. Had it not been for their efforts, who knows what would have happened to Buddhism? Okay, as it says, 此时若非公等, at this time, if it was not for Master Empty Cloud and the others, 佛教不知, nobody really knows whether there would be any Buddhism. Because why? It happened in the past that governments destroyed the Dharma. In fact, we see Shifu, here is Master Empty Cloud riding in a conveyance, riding in a carriage into the city. 三无灭佛，佛不灭，一在护教，教复兴。进京请愿拔舍苦，留得功勋传古今。Three emperors named Wu persecuted the Buddhists, but Buddhism did not die. The teachings were protected and flourished once again. Going to the capital to present their petition, they traveled a difficult path. The story of their glorious merit has come down from past to present. Okay. Now, I want to take a step back so that we can see the context. We've been hearing about Master Empty Cloud's incredible cultivation, how he does things that other people simply can't do. He should have died multiple times, falling in a river, falling off the ferry, being beaten, freezing to death twice, being saved both times, once from disease, that is, once freezing, once from disease. Then getting caught up in somebody else's disease on board ship and getting isolated so he catches his old diseases kicked back in. Then nearly being killed by a murderous doctor. On and on. All of these incredible stories about his toughness and his uh, unwillingness to die. It's just not his time to die. And it's not the end. This is going to happen even into his hundreds. He gets beaten again. But the focus now shifts because it's time for him to act on behalf of the Dharma as he becomes the Dharma protector, using his incredible reputation and his virtue to save, first of all, the Dharma system in Yunnan, and then save the monasteries from being pilfered by the government all over China. So if you were to use Master Empty Cloud's life as a lens to look at China at the end of the 19th and the beginning of the 20th century, it's a incredible perspective to see how China was pushed into the modern era, pulled out of feudalism that had been part of its story for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, the dynastic cycle. And now it's moving towards, it's being dragged by the modern age, the industrial age, into an awareness of the rest of the world. At the same time, Buddhism is being forged and likewise being saved from what was considered to be pure superstition into a religion that can work with all of the changes of the modern world and can survive, and not only survive but thrive. So Master Empty Cloud is one of the movers of, he's one of the architects of contemporary Buddhism. And some people might say the most important one, especially the Chan school. So here he is with a bunch of other monks to come to Beijing, and they meet together to talk about what's the best way. How do we approach the empire is still there. The emperor is still on the throne, but how long is he going to be on the throne? Just a few more years before this is the very, very last of the imperial system in China after thousands of years, right? So, oh my goodness, what an important visit this is. And at the same time, because he's such an active pilgrim traveling through China, we get to also look at his trail and see what Buddhism was like in Yunnan, what it was like in Sichuan, what it was like in the outskirts of Tibet, what it was like in Malaysia, in Burma, in Rangoon, what it was like at Jizushan, Chickenfoot Mountain, and then now we're back in the capital. We've been through the Boxer Rebellion and how the Empress Dowager fled with her entourage out to the Western Gate of China in the northwest, where people were so hungry, it was cannibalism was, I wouldn't say it's widespread, but it was definitely present. So Master Empty Cloud was a witness to all of that history as well. And we get to learn about who the Boxers were and how that door, putting down, suppressing the Boxer Rebellion, became the entryway for what were called the 8 root armies of Europe and Asia and America coming into China and pillaging. Just China's first impression about Westerners is very negative indeed because of the behavior of the soldiers of Russia and Japan and Germany and Italy and England and France and the US and India as well. Oh my goodness. People just misbehaved and raped and pillaged and burned and looted. this was the introduction, the rough introduction of China to the 20th century. So anyway, now through watching Master Empty Cloud's life progress as he lived out his 120 years, we also get to witness the history of what was called the sick man of Asia, on its way to becoming the powerhouse that's leading the world at present. So let's take a look now at the eight-fingered ascetic, this amazing man as well, amazing monk. Make this a little bigger. So one of the interesting things about this monk, who had various names, his surname was Huang Dushan early. He was also called Jing'an, and history knows him as Ji Chan, living in Chan. He was born in 1870, and he went to Ningbo, to Ayowang Temple, the same one that Master Empty Cloud went to, and burned off 2 fingers. Furthermore, cut off a piece of his flesh in order to make a lamp as an offering to the Buddha. So you know a little bit about this man's mindset. As they say, kids, please don't try this. This requires samadhi beyond the ordinary before you can succeed. So he became known to history as the eight-fingered ascetic. And he, in Hunan, at Xiangyang Monastery, Xiangyang's Dharma Flower Temple, left home, got the name Jing'an. So he was, the monks at the time, the elder monks, picked him out as somebody who was probably going to be a vessel for the Dharma. And he was illiterate, but he was just completely devoted to the Dharma. And he was what do you say, a single-minded cultivator, to say the least. So he met important monks, Master Donglin, and met Heng Sure Fa Shi, and followed him around. And there's a story about this interesting enlightenment story. So let's see here. Here we go. Let's see. Yeah, so Heng Zhi Ling Ya, let's see here, right here. 一天，季前正在机房为生甜菜饭，不知是谁把吃剩下的饭菜到进狗，咱们养狗在那儿，他的钵，恒志见到大声喝灾，季禅马上走到师父身边，没有两次地就把狗钵里边的饭就吃了。恒志问他什么味道啊？季禅法师说：味流天上，道在心中。恒志惊讶于眼前这个年轻僧人的境界，但他丝毫没有表露出来，他就没有表现，他觉得这个年轻人了不起，而且厉声喝道：味流舌上仍有分别，道在心中不见天日。季禅问到这个，如日照高山，大喜闻声。Okay, there's the story. So, so this monk, as a young man, was impressing his teachers left and right because he was so devoted to the way. And so he found a teacher and followed him around. One day, Master Ji-chan, was the eight-fingered ascetic, was serving food in the dining room, and we don't know who put his leftover food into the dog's bowl. They had a dog at the monastery. So Heng Sure, the master, saw this and scolded the guy who had dumped the food in the dog bowl. Ji-chan, the eight-fingered ascetic, without a blink, walked over and ate the food right out of the dog bowl. Heng Sure Fasher says, how does it taste? Ji Chan answered back, the taste stays on the tongue, but the way, the Tao, stays in the heart. Okay, that should be pretty good, right? That's a pretty savvy kind of thing to say. Heng Sure was amazed at this young monk's ability to not be attached, but his face kept his stern expression, and he says, okay, if the taste is on the tongue, you're still discriminating. If the way is in the heart, it doesn't see the light of day. Selfish. Ji Chan heard that and thought, this is wonderful. So he was enlightened to a degree at that point. He'd only been in school 1 year, nearly illiterate, and he always felt estranged from poetry. But one day, a monk who was slightly more literate was composing verses, and Ji Chan criticized him as wasting his time. How do you have time to study worldly literature? He says, only if you understand the world can you awaken to what's beyond the world, he said. So there was a gathering of poetry monks, and Master Ji Chan came along, and he saw Dongting Hu for the first time, and Yueyang Lo, and he was so excited, gazing out, hearing the waves on the shore. He himself wrote a verse. For the first time, he spoke a verse. And the verse went, was that it? That was it. The verse, his famous verse, he went, 围楼百尺兰江什么多少游人去不回今日边州水更上动听播送一生来 How did it go? It went, he spoke this verse, a perilous tower 100 feet above the river island. How many travelers have gone, never to return? Today, who will next board a small boat? The waves of Dongting send a monk all the way here. So somebody wrote that down in a poem. Everybody said, oh, this monk is really good. The waves of Dongting send a monk this way. They thought that was genius. So he became known as the finest poet monk in Chinese history. And he started writing poetry. So this is, what do they call him? Ba Zhi To To, the Mei Hua champion of plum blossom poetry. Here he is. Now he's got 8 fingers. He's easy to pick out. He and Master Empty Cloud have now come to Beijing to plead with the central government to please protect the Sangha property from those who want to steal it. Okay, everybody got the picture? That's the situation. Oh, it's a cliffhanger. Got to come back next week to find out what happens. 告一段落. All right? All right. See you all next week. Let's dedicate merit. We have lots of people who need help. They need food. They need shelter. They need comfort. Let's provide it with our mantra. Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Adyata Om Aisaji Aisaji Aisaja Sankate Swaha Om Namo Bhagavate Aisaja Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Adyata Om Aisaji Sajya Sankate Sa. One more time. Om Namo Bhagavate Sajya Guru Madhurya Prabharajaya Tathagacaya Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Adhyata Om Aisaji 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 Sankate Swaha. Thank you all for joining, everyone. Before we stop, what do you say we bow to Guanyin Pusa? You can also bow to Master Hua's image right there. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. That's going to do it for us for today. We'll see you all next week. Hope everyone is well. Hope the summer is winding up according to your wishes. May it be so. All right, everyone, be well. Ami Tuofo. Bye-bye now.